Hello, everybody, and welcome to Highside, Lowside. This is Season 10, Episode 3. My name's Zach. I'm joined with my buddy Spurg, as always. Today's episode, best new motorcycles under $10,000. We're going to be talking about all sorts of different types of bikes, as well as why some manufacturers are slashing prices. Good thing, bad thing, neutral thing? We will find out all that and more after this ad from our sponsor, Motul.
So you've noticed that your motorcycle brakes aren't providing as much stopping power as they once did. And you've watched Ari Henning's shop manual video on how to bleed your motorcycle brakes, but now you need brake fluid. Well, Motul has you covered with a full line of brake fluid. From riding around in the street to ripping around on a racetrack, Motul has got the right brake fluid for you. And to figure out which one that is, head over to RevZilla.com/Motul. That's RevZilla.com/MOTUL. And when you're over there on RevZilla.com, just keep in mind that every time you make a purchase with RevZilla, a little bit of that money goes back into funding the programs that you enjoy. Whether it's Zach and I sitting here talking with you on Highside, Lowside, or the shenanigans that people get into when you're out riding for a CTXP episode, or maybe you just appreciate the gear reviews and the product information. RevZilla gives back to riders because that's who we all are. Riders. So keep that in mind next time you need to make a purchase for your motorcycle. From cruisers to sport bikes to adventure bikes and everything in between, we've got you covered at RevZilla.com. All right, welcome to the episode. Today we will be talking about the best motorcycles, the best new motorcycles that we could find under $10,000. We're going to get into that in just a moment here. You're stuck with just Zach and I today. There's no extra guest, no extracurricular talking points. But I feel like we've done our homework here and kind of kicking off the conversation. Keep in mind that for season 10, we're getting rid of, the strict timer and the not the news, but we are talking about a variety of different things. And today, it actually is kind of a not the news. There's some articles that have been popping up on Common Tread that has allowed us to expand into a full episode, which is part of what we were talking about at the start of this season, is that sometimes articles are popping up and we think, hey, that might be a good episode, which is kind of where the idea came from. But, some of the articles that we've been talking about, Zach, are around manufacturers cutting MSRPs heading into 2025.
That's right. This is our hot take this time, everybody. You can find the article over on Common Tread. The article is titled, and I repeat, what is it titled again?
Some manufacturers are cutting prices to move inventory by Lance Oliver, published on March 5th, 2025.
And the upshot is that there's sort of like some sneaky price cuts happening in the industry that there haven't been necessarily a lot of press releases about or a lot of information about. But when we were looking around and taking stock of where the motorcycle industry is in 2025, it definitely seems like there's a pretty obvious trend, which is some bikes getting cheaper. Harley slashed the price of its Nightster at the end of last year, and then cut prices again, kind of quietly this year. Kawasaki has slashed prices on a bunch of bikes.
When we talked about episode 1, right, and we talked about the Harley Nightster, the price had been slashed to $10,500. Less than a month in between us recording episode 1 and us recording this episode, it's now sub $10,000.
Right, and there wasn't like a lot of shouting about that. It just sort of happened.
Kawasaki
cut a bunch of prices on their bikes, its bikes, and Yamaha has a model or two that have been cut way down. It is an interesting time. I would say, Spurge, before, because we're going to talk a lot about bikes and prices and models and stuff like that during the meat of this episode, so I don't want to get too far into it right now. You talked to Lance about this, I know, late last night. You said you had a candlelit talk with Lance over the phone about
my favorite nightly conversation.
Indeed, with this topic in mind. What's your take? Like, what does this mean? What should people think about this? What are some things outside bikes, just like kind of broadly getting a little bit cheaper? Is it good? Is it bad? Why is this happening?
Lance's first article was published March 5th. Dustin Whelan then had an article that went out less than 20 days later on March 19th saying riders speak, brands listen, when customer feedback fuels model updates. There's all these model updates that are happening now where some of the higher end features are being taken off of motorcycles to introduce cheaper models. Lance and I talked last night on the phone because I was going into this episode. He called me or he sent me a text, and I actually want to pull it up quickly because he gave me a specific number, and I thought this was interesting. Okay. So we go back and forth about like deals that we find, and he said, the inventory glut is real. I'm seeing some absolute bargains out here. There's 214 leftover 2024 models in his New Hampshire, Massachusetts search around his house. So part of what we were talking about is that like in some cases you can save up to like 20% off of MSRP right now on brand new 2024 leftovers. It seems like this could be a potential, I don't want to say negative, but it seems like inventory might be sitting around a little bit longer than it has in recent years. And that if you have been holding off on buying a motorcycle, now actually might be a really good time if you are looking at a new motorcycle. And we know, historically speaking, that once new motorcycle prices start to fall, so do the dominoes on used motorcycle prices.
Good news. Well, yes, I think that is what I was...
consumers, not necessarily for the manufacturers that are trying to sell these things.
Well, so that was what I was reaching for, is I do think it's as exciting as it can be to say prices are dropping on motorcycles and we love motorcycles, so that's exciting. I think broadly this is not, and I would say worrying, but not great, right? It means that there's like showrooms are quiet and there are leftover machines sitting around, and the companies feel like they need to move them. I do think it's maybe separate from all these model updates that we'll talk about, or some of the model updates we'll talk about, and models getting cheaper. I think that's being driven, I think maybe driven by something else. But right now it definitely seems like there are bikes around, and it's a little bit curious. I hope that it's not outright bad news, I guess.
I'm trying, and I think some of the things that we've pontificated on as well, are some of the manufacturers just hedging their bets on tariffs? Are they trying to get in front of some of this stuff? Or is it just all trying to move last year's inventory? And so far, like, we'll get into this here in a minute, but like I'm already seeing some rebates on 2025 models. So I don't know the answer to this, but I think it's fun as we get into an episode topic to get to play and see how far 10K will take you if you're looking to buy a new motorcycle in a variety of categories this year.
Indeed. So let's pivot into it. The best new motorcycles with an MSRP under $10,000. We're going to touch on the sort of usual categories that you're expecting: adventure, sport, dual sport, cruiser, standard, maybe some other stuff. I don't know. We'll see. The point is, I think we can dive into it, Spurge.
And if you are new to Highside, Lowside, and you're already screaming at your keyboards or typing into your keyboards, I guess you're screaming into the ether and you're typing into your keyboards about we should do this with used motorcycles. If you go back to season 8, episode 9, we actually had Patrick Garvin on. We gave ourselves each an imaginary $20,000 and bought 3 used bikes each. So this is kind of like a variation on that for people that are shopping new.
And if you're thinking $20,000 is more than $10,000 and we're bad at math, Spurge's point is that episode was about buying 3 bikes for less than 20 grand. So there was a lot of talk about buying bikes for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on Craigslist. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time with that episode. I think it was, well, I don't know how useful it was, but it was a good time. And I think it might provide some inspiration for you if you are interested. But today we're talking about the best new bikes under 10 grand. Spurge, any other caveats before we dive into this discussion?
So the only things for the audience to know: Zach does not know my picks.
Correct.
I do not know Zach's picks. We have broken this down into adventure, sport, naked. So category 1 is adventure. Second category is sport, naked. Third category is dual sport, dirt. Fourth is cruiser / touring. And then the fifth is standard / retro or city bike. We each tried to pick our favorite bike under $10,000. Adventure is the first category. Zach, I would say guest honors, but you're stuck with me. You're not a guest. Why don't you kick things off? Because I actually want to see what you picked because I don't want to pick the same thing.
I have the same thing. I had the same feeling.
I think I know what you picked, and I think that I picked the same thing. And if that's the case, then I'm going to pick something different because I'll be contrarian. So why don't you go first?
Okay, if you're making me go first,
should we do a drum roll? Like Zach, best pick of adventure under $10,000.
There's just a standout motorcycle, in my opinion, sub $10,000. And granted, it cost $9,999 MSRP.
I know what bike you picked.
Honda Transalp.
Honda Transalp. It was top of my list too.
Yeah. It's just, if you're talking about an adventure motorcycle for under $10,000, it is barely under $10,000. It's hardly under $10,000. Realistically, you might not be getting out the door for less than 11 grand for that bike, depending on your whatever deal you cut with your dealer or whatever. The point is the MSRP is technically under $10,000. And that is, in my opinion, that's a $12,000 bike at least. So it's a terrific motorcycle.
If you're not familiar with the Transalp, it has a 755cc parallel twin engine.
That it does.
Makes roughly a claimed 82 horsepower, has 53 foot-pounds of torque, comes in around 460 pounds with a wet weight. So not north of 500 pounds, a nice middleweight.
Big heavy bike, but not unreasonable.
Decent suspension on it. I mean, it's just shy. I think it's like just shy of 8 inches of travel. So you can push it a little bit off-road if you want to.
Sure.
10,000. I mean, like it's just to keep in mind, when Yamaha introduced the Tenere 700, it was sub $10,000. Now in North America, the Tenere 700 is an $11,000 MSRP. Right. So and beyond the specs, that I'm glad you mentioned the specs, Spurg, because it's important to lay the groundwork or paint a picture for those listening and not watching this podcast. That bike is just so good. It's just so good. The engine is terrific. It's like strong, burly, bassy. You know, when you wear like an expensive watch, well, I wouldn't really know, but I've heard that when you wear an expensive watch, it's like heavy on your wrist, That's not true. I've had one expensive watch in my life that I sold because it was too expensive. But it was like, it's a heavy watch. It feels like it has a weight to it where you're like, and I don't mean literal like pounds. It just sort of has this sort of like aura where you're like, this feels expensive. It feels good. It feels nice. It feels high quality. And it doesn't have the biggest TFT color screen, dashboard. Are you talking about the watch? Or are you shifting back to motorcycles?
Talking about the Transalp still. It doesn't have, if you look at the spec sheet, you could think, whatever, this other bike has a bigger engine. This other bike has more suspension travel. And I don't think it's like, it's the perfect motorcycle. I just think it's a screaming deal. It's just such a good deal for that bike, for that amount of money.
The other thing to note here too, is it's hard to argue with Honda. And if you're looking at a new motorcycle, one of the advantages of a new motorcycle is a warranty. So this bike comes with a 36-month, that's 3-year warranty as the standard warranty offering. Mm-hmm. So there, and there's a Honda dealership in damn near every town. So like,
True.
If you're worried about like, I want to take my adventure bike and go out and have adventures, chances are you're going to feel confident that you can take the Honda out and, put it through its paces. So
do you have any alt picks here?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. What's your alt pick?
I'll let you take the Transalp. I'm excited about this particular motorcycle. I know that when we talked about this in episode 1 with Lance, you were skeptical. I know that there are a lot of people out there right now skeptical. And I know
don't leave the people hanging. Just say it.
It probably plays right into my wheelhouse here. But the new KTM 390 Adventure R is $6,999. That is a 390cc single. Makes roughly 45 horsepower, 29 foot-pounds of torque. I did some estimations on like fuel and stuff because they listed the dry weight, but it should be just under 400 pounds. So a little bit smaller than the Transalp, a little bit lighter.
I mean, quite a bit smaller. That's a small adventure bike.
It's got some decent style upgrades though. It's got a new suspension for this year. So it's a little bit more on a premium side from a suspension standpoint. And I'm just excited to see what is to come of this for $3,000 less than the Transalp.
Yes, that's fair. I think it's 399cc. But
what did I say?
400. You said 390.
I'm sorry, it's
390 adventure.
399cc. It's just 1 cc short of 400.
And yeah, I am skeptical. I haven't loved any of the I haven't loved the arc and development of the KTM 390 products, if I'm being honest. I remember when they first came out, RC 390, 390 Duke. I was sort of like not smitten, but kind of like, oh, cool. I'm glad someone's doing this. It's been a long time since I've ridden an RC 390, to be fair. I haven't ridden one of the late model ones. But the last 390 Duke I rode, I didn't like all that much. So I don't know. I am skeptical, but I do think that KTM knows how to build a good motorcycle. And I think that if this bike got a little bit more aggressive and kind of like prepared for actual adventure compared to the last model, that would be big step forward.
Okay. So I want to throw out there, just from a direct comparison standpoint, I know there's a lot of people right now that are uncomfortable with KTM. KTM's obviously been in the news for
what happened? Was there a
bankruptcy, restructuring, warranty claims on camshafts? There's a whole thing. I mean, go over to Common Tread. We got no shortage of articles. We talked about that in the first episode with Lance. I'm not going to waste any more time.
Right.
However, in looking through the website, apparently, and this is where like KTM, you're not earning the trust back. There's a 4-year warranty, but it's really hard to figure out which models are eligible for the 4-year warranty. So I don't know if this comes with a 4-year warranty. I did not call my local dealership like the website told me to. I don't have that kind of time in these episodical researches that we do, or the researching for the episodes. I'm making it up as we go along here from a speaking standpoint. But my point is that like, if it does truly come with a 4-year warranty, it seems like KTM is trying to move in the right direction of saying, hey, we stand behind our products. Sorry about past sins.
Okay. Any guesses what my alt pick is here?
Yeah.
Tell me.
If it's the same as my actual alt pick, it's going to be really funny. KLR 650.
No, but I wanted you to bring up that bike because it's a classic. If you don't, we're not going to spend too much time dissecting a KLR 650. It's the sort of, it's the cockroach of motorcycles. It's been around forever and there's a reason for it. It is a survival, machine.
$7,200 with ABS, big. I think it's like a 649cc single cylinder engine.
Yeah,
they've made some updates to it. I'm probably wrong on the exact CCs, but
whatever.
I do not, I want to say this I want to say this right now. So I'm going to bring it up later. For those of you that are like, a KLR 650 is a dual sport. No, this is like a small adventure bike. It's soft. It's comfortable on the highway. I rode one. I almost did an iron butt ride on one from the press launch back to California. It was a very comfortable bike to ride on the street. It's okay off-road. But it's very much a lightweight adventure bike in my mind.
Well, not lightweight, literally, but lightweight in, figuratively lightweight. It's quite heavy.
It's lighter than some parallel twins,
than some cars.
Yeah. What's your alternative take here on the adventure? In the
CF Moto Ibex 450.
I should have guessed that.
$6,500, dude. It's pretty good. I really want you to try one. And I might be suffering from a little bit of recency bias since I wrote it last month, a couple months ago, whatever. I just thought like, it's not perfect. It has some things. The fueling's not great. The stock seat is kind of crummy, but I just think the core of that bike is quite good. I think the engine's great. I think the chassis attitude's great. And it comes with a bunch of cool features. It's cheaper than that KTM. Not by much. It's $6,500 for this bike instead of $7,000 for the KTM you picked. So really it's in the noise. It's a direct competitor to that bike, but you're talking about a twin cylinder 450. It's a little bit more, I think on paper anyway, more kind of like street biased engine. But I found it worked pretty well off road. I just think that bike is pretty good. And, when you're talking about skepticism of companies, there's lots of people who are like, I'll never buy a bike from China, from a Chinese company, or they're skeptical about dealer network or parts availability. And I think CF Moto is doing a pretty good job trying to quell those, concerns. But if that's something that you feel in your heart of hearts, then you got to follow your own path. I just think that bike is really good. And honestly, like when I was thinking about it, the CF Moto Ibex 450 and the Honda Transalp, I guess, tell me what the Transalp does that the Ibex 450 does not do. It's got more power. It's bigger.
It's probably got a comfort element to it. They're like bigger, more highway comfortable.
Well, for us, we're big people.
Not going to get blown around. Like,
and I mean, the Ibex 450 is a 425 pound bike. It's not like it's a dried leaf on the highway. It's like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not as powerful. The Transalp is bigger. It feels like a higher quality piece to me. But it's also significantly more expensive.
Here's my problem with the Ibex. So if you remember back to episode 1 of season 10, we talked about the fact that Dustin Whelan Dustin Whelan is our associate editor over on Common Thread, our online magazine that we refer to often. He is going to be doing a long-term review on this.
Yes.
He and I were talking yesterday, as a matter of fact, about his parts list. And he has a whole bunch of parts that he wants to get for this bike.
Yep.
Here's my problem, is that this is a brand new model. We are just getting them in the United States.
Yep.
It's been delayed coming in.
Yep.
If you take this bike out and have an adventure with it right now, it's really hard to find parts. Like, we were trying to find batteries and sprockets and brake pads, like regular wear item type things. And I'm sure that will all start to improve pretty quickly.
Yep.
But it is definitely at that infancy stage. Whereas you can look at KTM and have all the gripes that you want to have with them. Like, you can go and buy an aftermarket set of brake pads, an aftermarket battery. Like, right. Some of this stuff has already been figured out. So like, but I'm not mad at the Ibex.
Okay.
But it's still, it's in its teething phase, if
Infancy,
you will,
to some extent. Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, it's a fair criticism, I suppose. I just I start to lose it a little bit when you talk about like, what's the best motorcycle for this price? And then people are like, I don't like the color, or, there's this, that, and the other thing. I think we're talking to a broad audience here of, as we know, literally dozens of people listen to this podcast. So I think I don't know. I think it's worth a mention.
I think it's worth a mention, and I'm not splitting hairs over color or style or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think for people looking at buying an adventure motorcycle, parts availability, the second that you leave the dealership floor and you want to go have an adventure, I think it's something that people consider, and it's something that we've heard people critique about other manufacturers in the past.
Fair.
So that's my only point there. Well, but I think unless you have anything else you want to talk about adventure, we can try and keep this snappy and keep moving on. Yeah. This is the second time in 3 episodes where I have been a willing person in saying we can move on from adventure bikes. We don't have to talk about adventure
bikes. You hate moving on. That's true. Yeah. All right. Next up is the sport/naked sport category. The way we broke this down was, it can be difficult sometimes to tell the difference between like a standard bike and a sport naked, and like what's the difference between a bike that has a flat handlebar and an upright riding position, and it's like kind of sporty, kind of not, whatever. We decided that the way to do it was, we're talking about sport bikes, which are easy to identify with the, clip-ons or low handlebars, and the fairings. And your naked sport bike, which is either a naked version, so a fairingless version of that motorcycle, or a motorcycle that has sporty intentions, and does not have bodywork on it. So there's a little bit of gray area here, but I think we're gonna, and it's your turn here, Spurge. So you go first.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you. So I know that I said we can move on from adventure bikes, and you just gave a great explanation of sport and naked. Do we want to do the category wrap up at the end of the episode? So like that way we can kind of bring things back around for audiences.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. I think that's the better way to do it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then let's go on and move on to sport and naked, exactly as Zach has described it.
Shall we?
My pick, and this was something I wrote about in our end of year article at the end of 2024. And I've actually got a bone to pick with you about this one, Zachariah. My pick is the Suzuki GSX-8R. And I had to write this down because I always say this wrong. It's the Suzuki GSX-8R. It is got an MSRP of $9,439. This is a 776 parallel twin engine, making a roughly claimed 82 horsepower, 58 foot-pounds of torque, and measured, Dustin Whelan's article says that he measured this one at 452 pounds.
That's your pick?
What don't you like about it?
Everything.
What don't you like about that bike?
Let's see.
Sub $10,000 sport naked. What do you possibly
Why wouldn't
have?
you just get, well, first of all, why wouldn't you just get a GSX 8S? The naked version of it. It's cheaper. I think it's lighter.
I think the R is something that you could take to a track day. I think the R is something that's a little bit more comfortable for riding around in the street.
What? More comfortable than the naked bike?
No, I'm not saying more comfortable than the naked bike, but like more comfortable than like if you're going after like an R7 or something like that.
Yeah, the R7's overpriced. We can talk about that in a minute. It's certainly more comfortable than an R7. I just don't understand why you wouldn't just get the naked version of it. So if you want the fairing, fine, pay 94. What is it? 94.50.
But I think this is something like I'm looking at Sport Naked. This is a bike that I could take to a track day. I could put some components on it. Okay. I could enjoy it. I like the look of the yellow one. I know that that's probably a little subjective, but and there's a ton of rebates on these. So I know that we talked about Lance's article in the full call in the beginning. No. I can find it for like $7,000, like for leftover. Anyway. And you didn't. How do you even know? Here's my bone to pick with you. I went back and I looked at Daily Rider episodes I looked at leaderboards for 2023 and 2024.
Right. Hit me.
In the top 3 pick of 2023 was the GSX 8S in your top 3, but you haven't done an 8R for Daily Rider. So how can you even sit here and tell me and lecture me like I'm wrong? This is not on the Daily Rider board.
It's the same motorcycle.
I don't know. You're telling me it's not.
Fairing on it.
No, it's a little bit of a different seating position and it's got a different style to it.
Oh, a little bit different style. Oh, okay. Here's the thing. You want a bike with a fairing on it? Fine. That's fine. It's fine. There's no problem with buying a bike because it has a fairing on it and because you want a quote unquote sport bike. But this category in particular.
Supposedly the suspension is a little bit different too. I haven't ridden them back to back, but supposedly suspension's a little stiffer for my fat ass. You disagree. You're allowed to disagree with me.
I disagree.
It's okay.
I disagree. I would sooner have the 8S. Okay. You can also go to a track day. You can do all the same thing. There's nothing an 8R does that an 8S doesn't do, really, practically, except have a fairing on it. And I just don't, that doesn't have a lot of value to me. If you need a sport bike, if you need to have the racy looking sport bike, then sure, then get it. That's fine.
I think it looks better. And again, maybe I'm just biased to that yellow one. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe you love the yellow.
I do love yellow.
Okay. All right.
All right. So you disagree. You don't have to spend your $10,000 in the same thing I'm spending my $10,000 on. What are you looking at here? What's piquing your fancy? What's tickling your giblets? What do you got for us?
I have so many picks in this category. This category is full of bikes that I think are great. And that GSX 8S is one of them. It was on my list. Okay. It's 4th on my list in no particular order.
So you have a list.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Definitely.
Okay.
At the top of my list, I have 2 at the top of the list, really. There's 2 bikes I need to talk about.
All right.
I got to talk about
How do you just pick one to start and then
I'll pick one. Kawasaki Z900. Kawasaki Z900. You can get a Kawasaki Z900 for $10,000 for $9,999 MSRP. $10,000. That's 123 horsepower, 940 something cc, inline 4. And it's got good brakes. It's got technology. Maybe you don't love the way it looks. I'm not crazy about the way it looks, but that is a naked sport bike in a fairly true sense of the word. Mm-hmm. And that is same as the Transalp. That's a lot of motorcycle for $10,000. That's a lot of motorcycle. And we have tested the SE version, Dustin and I last year or 2 years ago, last year, something like that, which has an upgraded shock and it has, comes in fancier colors and that kind of thing. But that's like a $12,000 bike. I was shocked when I did this research.
So again, and I know that this isn't what the episode's about, but for those people that are listening to this right now, so this is one of the bikes that came up in my conversation with Lance, because you're right. The SE has an MSRP in 2024. The MSRP of the outgoing, I mean, it's the same bike, was $11,399, but there's $1,000 rebate on that right now. So in theory, that's getting pretty close. You could
close to $10,000.
You could get a leftover SE for pretty close to $10,000. And then when you look at the RS model, Lance actually found some RSs that were marked down almost $3,000.
Okay. Well, I don't feel the same way you do about counting rebates or discounts, or I know the owner of that dealership.
I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah.
No, and in some ways you're agreeing with me. I mean, think about that. You're talking about GSX 8R with a 776 cc parallel twin. What does it make? 80 horsepower, 70 something horsepower. And I mean, maximum horsepower is not the point here. But just as an idea of what kind of bike you're getting, I don't know. Yeah. You're getting a 120 something horsepower naked bike I mean, that's a full size, full speed.
It's a great bike.
Motorcycle. And it's a great bike. It works well.
Bike.
The engine's nice. Like I said, the brake's good, chassis good. It's a good motorcycle.
I remember when I reviewed that when it first came out, because remember they had the Z800 and then they bumped it up to the Z900 when it was first
Z1000 for a minute.
Yeah, the 800 was only like a couple years, like a year. The intake sound on this motorcycle is phenomenal. Like I know that we talk about exhaust notes, but like the intake sound on this engine is one of my favorites right now in motorcycling.
Right. That's a good one. So another one I want to throw out there, the other one at the top of my list is a bike that I have not ridden, and I couldn't give it my full kind of like tip of the cap because I haven't tried it. But I'm awfully excited about that CB750 Hornet from Honda. It's the same engine from the Transalp that we talked about. $8,000,
but you're not excited about the Suzuki?
Dude, I've ridden a V-Strom 800, which is the same engine as the GX 8. And I've ridden a Transalp, which is the same engine as the Hornet, and the Honda engine is so much better.
Really?
That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Right.
And I'm I am is an expert.
So why was the Suzuki in the top 3 and the Transalp was not?
What do you mean?
I'm looking at your Daily Rider leading board.
Oh, well, we're talking about what the Transalp was the best bike of 2020, whatever.
Oh, yeah, that was 2024. The Suzuki fell into 2023. Gotcha. Right.
The V-Strom 800, I think, was it the best bike of 2023, 22, whatever.
No, 23.
23. Okay.
Yeah,
and
it was three. It was 3 Suzukis. It was the
GX 8S and the V-Strom and the
SV650.
SV650. It's another great bike. That was on my list for Sport Naked too. No, I think the Honda Transalp is better than a V-Strom 800 in my opinion, and it's cheaper. And I suspect that CB750 Hornet is going to be a riot. They're talking about 420 pounds with a full tank of gas, and that engine is a stonking engine. It's just like feels good, sounds good. And Honda's usually pretty good about balanced chassis and that kind of thing.
For those of you that don't know what Zach's talking about, the Honda Hornet was just announced. It's a parallel twin.
Did you listen to season 10, episode 2, everyone? We just talked about it.
I'm just saying, for people that don't know, maybe you're just tuning in for the first time. This is something that is not here stateside just yet, but we just got the announcement that Honda is going to be bringing it from Europe into North America.
Okay, I got to call a couple other sport things. You know, this is my category, Spurge.
I'm just sitting back and this is your world. I'm just living in it, my friend.
Okay, well, the SV650, that's a terrific sport naked kind of bike. Great bike. Well, you didn't bring up the Ninja 500. I know you're a small Ninja fan. You love the small Ninja.
I only gave you my top pick. I didn't get into it. You're just running with this.
Well, let's run with it, dude. Come on, man.
No, I'm not arguing with you. The Ninja 500 is great. It is great. The Ninja 500 from a price standpoint, it's sub 6,000.
You can get one for $5,300, and I think that's, you don't get a TFT dash, you don't get the tall windscreen, you don't get ABS, maybe even, but yeah, sub $5,500. That's again a lot of bike. That's a great bike for that amount of money, and if $6,400 for the 500 SE, which has all the features and the nice dash and all that kind of stuff, and $6,400 is a good deal.
As long as you're talking about that. And we're talking about sport bikes under $10,000, and you're on Honda or you're on Kawasaki's website. You can get a ZX4R for $8,900.
$8,999, right?
Well, $8,999 plus that's the new lower MSRP is $8,999. But there's also the biggest piece on it is the $400 price reduction. So I'm not sure if that's worked into that or if there's an extra rebate there too.
The point is,
point
is, if we're talking about a true sport bike for under $10,000, that's the one. That's the one. That's a real sport. It's a real inline 4 screaming sport bike for under $10,000. And yeah, it's 400 cc's, and it doesn't.
We've talked about this in previous episodes. I think it's important for listeners to know, especially if you're on the newer end of the spectrum.
Spell it out.
A Ninja 400 or a Ninja 500 is a parallel twin. Great sport bike. You can still take it to the track. It's very usable. It's a great entry level bike that you can kind of still grow into. The ZX4R is a inline 4 peaky track bike. It is something that is not going to be fun per se for a beginner rider. It's not going to be something you want to go out there and use around on the street as much because it's not the same torque curve. No,
it's not as usable an engine on the street.
Yes,
but it is a smooth, pleasant, cool sport bike. And it does have more performance on tap, and crucially, perhaps, nicer suspension, nicer, it's a little bit higher quality piece because it is more expensive.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
Oh, so this is interesting too.
I still have other bikes on the list.
You can get the ZX4RR, which upgrades the fork. The R, there's a ZX4R, which is $89.99. But now there's also a ZX4RR, which gives you the high upgraded fork. And it seems like they're separating it this year because it didn't used to be that way, did it?
I don't know. I have a link here in my document. I thought I had this all spelled out.
There's a ZX4R that seems like it's slightly lower suspension specs at this point. And then there's a ZX4RR, which is $96.99, which gets you the quick shifter and the upgraded suspension.
Okay. So I said $9,000, but I was talking about the ZX4RR, which is the nicer one. It's still $9,700.
Yeah.
So
but I think it's worth clarifying that if Zach and I are going to spend up to $10,000, we're going to spend the extra $700 for the quick shifter and the upgraded suspension.
I think so. Okay. Well, let's move on. We got to move on from sport, but there's other stuff in here.
Hang on. Listen.
Do you have one more? Do you have anything else?
No. This is your category.
Then why did you stop me
You're
from
already
speaking?
hitting the same ones that I'm hitting, except for we disagree on the Suzuki. So why don't you keep going? What's the other ones on your list there, Zachariah?
BMW F900R. F900R.
So that's not over 10 grand?
$9,000. It's $9,000 for an F900R. And I know what you're thinking.
Bullshit.
Like it's not a sport bike.
But can you get an F900R for $9,000? Or is that like the BMW thing where they tell you it's $9,000 and you walk into a dealership and it's $13,500?
Talking about base MSRP, and you're the ones talking about rebates and deals at dealers and whatever. So
no, but
I'm
we
not
know
gonna
that
put too much weight.
BMW often doesn't bring in their base price model to the US. So like, can you actually buy that bike for $9,000?
I don't think this is one of those BMWs that is usually draped or littered with like premium pack, touring pack, dynamic pack, like that kind of thing. I think it'd probably be easier than usual to find a bike actually find an F900R that is under 10 grand. But what I'd like to point out here, the F900R is a kind of like full size naked bike, a little bit sporty in my experience. And it's pretty premium. I think the suspension is pretty good. The brakes are great, as they often are on BMWs. The dash is nice. Feels like a fairly premium product to me. I don't love the 900 cc parallel 200. Not is it exactly 900 cc's? I don't remember how many cc's it is exactly. What is it? 895. But it is a strong, powerful. They claim around 100 horsepower, a little more than 100 horsepower. And there's an F900 XR. Those of you not familiar with BMW nomenclature, that's a little bit more upright, has a little bit of a fairing. That bike's like 12 and change, 12.5 or something like that. And the F900R is the same basic bike. It's just the seating position's a little bit different, and it's like $3,500 cheaper. It's always been kind of a steal.
Isn't this the engine that I liked and you didn't like?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Which one? Like from the F900. It's the 900cc BMW engine, the one that's in the.
Yeah, but like when we talk about this, I really liked the engine, and you said it was too vanilla for you.
Here's the thing. So it's kind of vanilla when it's in an F900 GS that costs $16,000, and you're going up against Africa Twins and Triumph Triples and Ducati Desert X's and stuff like that. I think it's a little bit vanilla. If you're talking $9,000 for a Sport Naked and you're going up against a Suzuki GSX-8 engine, it's a pretty good deal.
I just want to go on record and say that, I like this engine. I like this engine a lot. I don't think this engine is vanilla. I think this engine spins up fast. I think one of the reasons that, if I remember correctly, when you and I were arguing about this, when I got back from the F900 GS launch, was you were like, oh, it's too smooth. I think you said it lacked character, right? It was just too.
Yeah, it's a little tinny, little thin.
It was just too perfect, if you will. Joking aside, I think that if you're looking, I didn't realize that this bike was that cheap. I didn't even consider this bike because I couldn't imagine that it was $9,000. I like this engine a lot. I think this engine spins up fast. It's rowdy when you want it to be. I love the looks of this bike. I like what BMW is doing with the F900 series in general. Yeah, I would 100% consider an F900R for sub $10,000 in this category. It's a great pick. Great pick.
Why, thank you. Okay, well, there's a lot of options here. We've thrown a lot of letters and numbers at you. So I think we move on now. Yeah. To the next category, which you will own, I think.
I am going back to my document to move on to the dual sport and dirt category.
Although it's my turn to go first, I think.
It's your turn to go first. I'm gonna let you go first. I want to say up front that I think the hardest part for me with this category is that pretty much all the KTMs are over like $12,000.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about dual sport and dirt, I didn't realize, like, honestly, like my first pick was like, I have a 350 EXCF in the garage. And I was like, oh, like what's the price on if I were just to go buy a new 350 EXCF, they're like over 12 grand.
Big fancy podcast host doesn't even know his bike is so expensive. Just threw down the credit card, made it happen.
I bought a leftover 4 years ago or 5. No, mine's a 2018. So my bike is, what's the math on that one?
You can do the math. It's 5
7,
plus 2.
7 years old.
Nice.
And I like, if it's not broke, do not fix it in my mind. Like I have so many friends that have like moved on to like 2-strokes and they're racing and they're getting faster and all this shit. And I'm like 350 EXCF stripped down, fine for me. You know,
the 350 EXF is a terrific motorcycle. It is, however, too expensive. So,
what's your pick? You kick things off, Zach.
Kawasaki
What did you
KLR
find?
650. Awesome dual sport. So good, don't you think? I genuinely had this on my dual sport list. And here's the thing. I hear what you're saying. And I don't think you're wrong. I think you could just say like, that's an adventure bike. It's a street bike. It's not really a dual sport. It's too big. It's too heavy. And if that's how you feel, sure.
We did an episode on this where we talked about dual sports in general. And I think there's a lot of confusion. Like an adventure bike is a dual sport. A dual sport is not an adventure bike.
I see. So it's a square and rectangle thing. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't remember that delineation. I see dual sport versus adventure as sort of like a swear word, right? Like I know it when I see it. I'm not going to spell it exactly what it is and isn't. It's like contextual sometimes. And I think that depending on the type of person you are or the type of riding you do, a KLR could be a dual sport.
So
you disagree?
No, here's the problem. Like, and this goes back into like, we've had listeners write into us and everything else. We've had commenters on Common Tread. A dual sport in its name means it's designed for dual functionality. An adventure bike is designed to go on road or off road. In the world of motorcycling, when I think of dual sport, I think of something a little bit on the smaller side, sub 600 cc's. And that's hard because like there's a DR 650, there's the Honda, there's the
XR 650L.
XR 650L.
Yep.
There's the KLR 650. Like there's these bikes that are predominantly lumped into the dual sport category. And so by that mention, you're absolutely right. A KLR 650 is been around for almost 40 years.
It's the pedigree. It's the pedigree of the KLR that makes it feel like a dual sport, because in 1987 and 1994 and 1998 and 2003, I don't know when it upgraded. Anyway, the point is, if you go back far enough and you look at a KLR 650 from the early 90s or late 80s or whatever, it pretty clearly is a dual sport, but it has grown into a bike that really is more of an adventure bike. So it blurs the lines big time. And I think it's only fair right now to let you take the
first motorcycle I ever got a ride on was Uncle Bob showing up on a 1980 something KLR 600 before they bumped it to the 650.
Wow.
He stuck me on the back and took me out for a ride, and my mother was screaming from the kitchen window.
So what's at the top of your list here? Because I'm kind of just joshing you with the KLR because I wanted to talk about how it blurs the lines and blah, blah, blah.
So
what's yours? What's your pick?
Much like you were talking about the sport category, when I think of dual sport / dirt, I think for a lot of us on the East Coast, we have to have a license plate. We can't just go out and.
I think that's a good delineation.
Yeah. But we also had dirt here, right? So we're not necessarily talking about pure dirt bikes because for us, especially, we have to be able to have a plate to ride in a lot of the off-road areas. I really like the one that comes close is the Honda CRF 450 L, or it's the RL now,
RL,
but that is
right.
$10,099. So it is $100 north of the $10,000 limit.
Doesn't count.
I know.
Next.
I figured you were going to say that. And then I was going to say I could probably find one under 10 grand and you're going to say that doesn't count. So, exactly. but when I think about like performance and money, like that's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal for what you're getting with the perforance on that motorcycle.
But let's not spend too much time on it because it's a sub $10,000 category. So come on.
KLX 300 is 5450. Yeah. The KLX 300, because there's a 300R. The R does not have a license plate. Right. And I did the press launch for the 300R. I thought that was a smoking bike. If I could use it in my backyard for that one's 5550, right? I would go out and I would get one of those because it's a great bike for under $6,000. The problem is that one doesn't have a license plate. A year after they released it, they came out with the 300.
And go ahead. Sorry.
It has a lot of the same specs. It's slightly,
what was the price again?
That one is $5,450.
That's pretty good.
Same engine, but it's got some of the emission stuff that the R doesn't have. It's got slightly softer suspension on it.
It's heavier.
It's about 20, 25 pounds heavier.
Right. But I do think historically also, for a little bit of context for anyone who's particularly interested in this category, it is slightly more aggressive, stiffer suspension historically than the Honda CRF 300.
Oh yeah.
L.
There's no question. If I was looking at if I was cross shopping the Kawasaki versus the Honda, I would get the Kawasaki.
And in an interesting twist of fate, or a plot twist, perhaps better phrase, a CRF 300L is $5,750.
Is that the new one that they're just coming out with the updated suspension?
I believe so. Yes, I believe this is 2025. It's
so this was part of.
But the point is, Hondas are almost
article.
always a little cheaper, right? Like Spurge talked about that CR 450 RL that is like sort of cheaper than any other 450 Dual Sport, and then the Transalp is cheap, and that Hornet's pretty cheap. Like Honda has done a pretty good job with aggressive pricing, I think, and being sort of friendly on the wallet. But Kawasaki's been slashing prices, and the KLX is a bike that came down in price, and I think that's worth mentioning. It's only a couple $100, but something.
I would just say, so we talked at the beginning of the episode about the articles about manufacturers listening to customers. Dustin does have a note that there is, just at the time of recording this, a new announcement from Honda with the CRF 300L and 300L Rally. Supposedly, I believe they're going to be updating the suspension on these bikes and kind of making them a little bit more competitive, perhaps. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what comes out of that.
Competitive isn't really a word that I would use to describe.
I would just say competitive against,
yes,
like, is it good? Like, is it
closer
closer
to
nipping at the heels of the Kawasaki?
Yes. Yes. It's not a
but I think
motorcycle, but competitive in a market sense. Yes.
What I learned in this category is, for the Spurgeon Dunbars of the world that want a performance dual sport motorcycle, you're probably spending over 10 grand. There's not a lot in the competitive, a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more oomph, especially if you want a license plate on the back.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a good call out. And it's funny how that's happened. I remember I was shopping for bicycles years ago and I said, I want to get a road bike. What should I get? And I was talking to a colleague at the time and he was like, oh, well, you're going to want to spend, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. And I was like, I beg your pardon? Yeah. It's just funny how when a category gets, kind of like aggressive and populated enough, it ends up being expensive. And I think that you could argue that, a CRF 300 L or a Kawasaki KLX 300, to be clear, are capable dirt bikes for having an adventure, for getting out there, for riding down the road, for riding down trails. I think they're great bikes, but there's definitely a different edge that you get when you get an actual, an actual sort of off-road bike with lights on it or whatever.
Yeah, when you're looking at the difference in some of these performance-oriented ones versus some of the soft ones, it's night and day. And they're lighter. Like they're lighter. It's a weight thing. It's a components thing.
Oh yeah, much lighter. Yeah.
But like. So you're a big fan of the KLR 650. That's good for you. My question is, before I keep going in this category, much like you took a run at Sport, is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
I did have the Honda XR 650 on my list because I do think
you're really leaning towards the big bikes. You're like a big 650 guy. That's what you.
Okay, the two bikes I was going to bring up were the XR 650 and the Yamaha XT 250, which is quite small and piddly. It's sort of like an RV bumper bike, but it is a dual sport motorcycle. And I have ridden one on trails.
What's the price on that one?
That's the thing. It's like, what is it? How much is it? It's like $5,200. Let me see here.
If you're looking at that bike for $5,500, if you're looking at the Yamaha for $5,500, buy the Kawasaki.
So my point here, Spurgeon, is that there are bikes around that are smaller, but you're sort of like, you're a big bike guy. What's the deal with the big bikes? But
I think the 300L walks the line between the two. And my wife has My wife has a Kawasaki 230L. What's the price on the 230L versus the Yamaha?
I don't know. Am I the one doing all the research here?
$4,500. I mean, I can tell you what I paid for my wife's 230L, but I'm not allowed to talk about prices. I have to talk about MSRPs.
A KLX 230 is $5,000.
$5,000?
$5,000.
So save yourself the money from the Yamaha and buy the Kawasaki 230L. It's going to be, in my opinion, a better bike.
Well, the reason I picked the XR650 is I just feel like it's a classic, it's an icon, but it's also pretty capable ultimately. I mean, you can get away with a lot on that bike. And it's sort of a true, like, it's not going to be comfortable or great on the highway, but it's a pretty true dual sport, like old school dual sport motorcycle. Like, it'll go down the road. It has enough oomph, but it's like got a lot of suspension travel, and it's got a big burly engine, and it's $7,000. And is it like too much to charge $7,000 for a bike that was engineered in 1876? Maybe, but it's got a lot of capability. Like, as much more capability, I think, than your KLX.
Than my KLX.
Than your KLX 300 pick.
For like going down the highway and stuff, you're saying?
Anything.
Like anything as far as like the off-road side of dual sporting?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You think that a KLX 650 is going to be more fun to ride?
XR650?
Oh, an XR650? Either one. You think either of those is going to be more fun to ride off-road than the KLX 300?
I'm so interested to hear you say that you think that KLX 300 is...
I haven't ridden the street version. I've ridden the off-road version. The off-road version for $5,500, like the R, is just a poppin' dirt bike for $5,500.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
So even if they knocked a little bit of the edge off of it, I would imagine it's still going to be a little bit more of a proper dirt bike than a KLR 650.
XR 650.
XR 650 or KLR 650. Either one. Like,
what are you talking about? Do you know what you're talking about?
The Honda or the Kawasaki. I think the KLX.
Whoa. Pump the brakes. Stop. Are you saying that an XR 650 and a KLR 650 are similar?
Are you not?
They're way different.
How?
An XR 650 is a dirt bike, dude.
An XR 650 is a big air-cooled 650.
And the KLR is a liquid-cooled 650 that sits low to the ground and is way heavier and has... an XR 650's got 11 and 11 and a half inches of travel. It's a dirt bike. It's a full-on tall dirt bike that weighs 340 something pounds. A KLR 650 weighs 100 pounds more and is lower and dumpier and totally different.
I will give you that the changes made to the recent generation of the KLR 650 have pushed it more into a comfortable street bike than what the predecessor was.
This is 10 years.
But I don't
it's been
think
10 years, 15 years of the KLR and XR 650 being completely different.
I don't think the XR is as off-road capable as you're giving it credit for.
Have you ridden one?
Yeah. I haven't ridden one. I haven't ridden a new one, but they haven't changed in...
They have not. Have you ridden one back to back with a Suzuki DR 650 and a KLR 650?
Not back to back, no.
On a 3-day adventure trip to Lake Arrowhead, California?
No, I feel like you're going somewhere with this.
I have, Spurgeon! And granted, it was 6 or 8 years ago. They're very different. I promise you. An XR 650 is like, the pegs feel high, the seat feels narrow. It's like, it feels like a big dirt bike. Proper, old school, dual sport dirt bike. Whereas the KLR is like, you know what a KLR is. It's a 400
But you think, so you're saying that like between the KLX 300 and a 650L from Honda, like you think that the 650L would be as much fun to rip around off-road?
Not as much fun, no. But as capable, if not more capable, in the hands of someone like you and me, which I think is, we're not expert riders or anything like that, but it does have more power. It's going to be better on the open road. And I think that's worth calling out. That's all.
Okay. I'll give you it's worth the call out. Let's throw one more out there and then we have to move on.
We should move on. Yeah.
So one of the bikes that we had talked about in episode 1 that we kind of slammed because it was expensive, but it is sub $10,000 is the new Suzuki DRZ 4S with a base MSRP of $89.99. This got brought up in season 10, episode 1, because it's a lot more expensive than some of the competitors out there. When you're thinking about where this bike is playing up against, right? Like we actually compared it against the KTM Adventure in the Enduro.
But hang on. Okay,
but I
go
think
ahead.
it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, hang on. I'm trying to look something up here. For 2025, there's a KTM 390 Enduro R.
Yeah, and I don't understand what KTM's trying to do because it's not
Okay.
it's not like the 350 is the dual sport. The Enduro R is like the adventure bike chassis
Right.
that they just kind of like made into like a naked adventure bike almost.
Yes, it's sort of a naked adventure bike. So, and I know that's not the same as what Kawasaki has done with the DRZ4S, which is I think again, like an old school proper dual sport, that's been updated and for some wild reason cost $9,000, which I cannot wrap my head around. But the Enduro R is granted a street bike sort of core that KTM has turned into a dirt bikey kind of thing, but it's $5,500.
I'm not arguing. It's
really hard to argue
because it comes from it's like a street bike core.
Yeah,
you said
not,
it's like a street. I think it's more of an adventure bike than it is a dual sport. I don't know. I don't either.
I don't think so, man.
We haven't ridden it yet, so I don't.
We haven't ridden it.
But
no, we haven't.
It just feels to me like that bike is going to be very similar to the 390 Adventure R. Versus like a DRZ4S is probably going to feel like a lethargic 350 EXCF. Like,
okay, I just sent you a link. I want you to open that page and look at those pictures. And I know this is a KTM professional rider doing professional rider things on this bike.
I know that. I saw the pictures. I just don't know if it's the same engine as the Adventure R. And I know that you don't think that the Adventure R can do this kind of stuff. It's the same engine.
But it's trimmed down. It's lighter. It doesn't have all the muck on it, right?
I'm confused. I told Chris Fillmore, our KTM rep, that I was confused when these bikes came out. I would love to ride them. We haven't gotten the press invites yet.
This is a 350-pound bike. Well, it's going to be. It says 350 without fuel, or dry weight without fuel. So it's going to be like 375, 380 probably. I don't know. It's going to be that's like. I don't know if that's really an adventure bike, man. That might be a dual sport, right?
I'm not arguing with you. I'm confused. I'm confused.
All right. Well, if we're confused, we should move on because we've obviously got to the edge of our. But this is a great point.
So, if we're sitting here's for our audience listening, those of you that are the three of you that are left after this, my KTM 350 EXCF to go out and buy it new is over $12,000. It is a ripping dirt bike with a license plate and a headlight on it. If you look at this bike, it is a 399cc engine.
Yep.
So in your mind, you're like, oh, it makes more power than that measly 350 EXCF. That's not the case.
No, not the case.
And this is half the price. This is less than half the price.
It is.
I don't know. I'm so confused. I want to ride this bike. I don't think it's a bad call out. And especially if we're considering if people are screaming at their keyboards saying, why do people scream at their keyboards? Stop doing that, people.
I don't know. Yeah, come on, take it easy.
But look at the Suzuki. We brought this up as too expensive, but it is something that is worth consideration as a sub $10,000 dual sport.
That's
in the year.
Totally. It is. It's worth consideration. I just don't think it's in the conversation for me. Unless it's just brilliant in some way that I am not expecting. I just don't see that. And I only bring up the KTM in the context of that bike. Really, we're talking about an 1821 wheel set on a bike that weighs well under 400 pounds. It just feels like it's worth calling out. That's all. All right, but this is a lot of dual sport.
No,
we didn't think we were going to get so hung up on dual sport. We got to move on, man.
I know, and I didn't see this coming for us. But let's go ahead. Let's take a quick break.
Indeed.
Get in a word from our sponsor, Motul, and then we'll move on with the conversation.
Oh boy. Okay, Spurjo. Here we go into the rest of this discussion. We cooled off a little bit during the break. We were pretty wound up.
We spent a lot more time talking about dual sports than I was really expecting us to. Yeah.
Same. Okay. Next category. Let's jump right into it. Is cruiser/touring. This one was interesting for me actually. I got some bikes I really like in this category. But one thing I'd like to say from the top is I really found more cruisers and not so much touring bikes. Did you find any bikes that you'd classify as touring bikes in this category?
Not for sub 10,000.
Exactly. So if you're going to get a touring bike for sub 10,000, you're probably going to get an adventure touring bike because there are some of those that I think are probably better. That's just a quick call out I wanted to make. And I don't think that's a biased ADV thing. I think it's just the way the cookie crumbled here.
Yeah. Cause I was looking at, for example, and this isn't one of my picks, but like the Rebel 1100T is
Right.
10,800. So like,
And that has bags
Rebel
on it,
with
right?
the bags on it.
Right.
Yeah.
With the old Rebel teabagger. That's a classic. So we might as well pivot straight into it because the Rebel 1100 was on my list. The Rebel 1100 is $9,600.
You're just going to go first?
No tea bags.
It was my turn.
First.
It was my turn.
Was it your turn?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
No.
Oh, you're right. No, it was. I went KLR first. So you go first. Sorry.
No,
Just forget everything I just said, everybody.
This is I want the audience to see how our relationship actually works.
You brought up
you just steamroll
the teabagger.
Me. No,
I didn't bring it up.
The teabagger now. So
You
the
brought
question
up,
is, do we have to have producer or editor Matt bleep this out or not? That's going to be the real question.
Okay. So it was a natural segue into the Rebel 1100, which I do feel like.
Do you like it? You like the Rebel 1100?
I do. And I just think it's $9,600 and you get an 1100cc thumping parallel twin and you get a Honda and you get, I don't know. It's like, I just think it's a lot of bike.
But then you have to be seen riding around on that bike. Like, it's just not, it's so dorky looking. I don't.
It is. Okay. I'll give you this. And this is actually a conversation I want to have later as well.
Okay.
It isn't really like mechanically what I think of, I guess mechanically and stylistically as a cruiser. Like it is like, as the spec sheet
it's got
says,
like sport bike rubber on it. Like it looks sport, like the top, like the wheel sizes look like sportier. I don't know.
Anyway. Okay. Well, I mean, I do, it is a cruiser and that's a fact and it cannot be denied, but it can be denied and it can be disputed that it truly holds the cruiser character and aura about it. I think that if you're talking engine size, you're talking engine performance, you're talking sort of like, I don't know, just like amount of objectively good things that you get from a motorcycle for a price. That's a lot of bike for $9,600.
So just to kind of fill people in here, for those of you that are not familiar, it's a 1083cc liquid cooled parallel twin.
Yes.
I don't have horsepower on this one. You know what
they might not, they probably don't even claim horsepower, but it's going to be like 90 or 100 or something.
Yeah. So
anyway,
27 and a half inch seat height.
Yeah, low seat, low slung.
Seat. Yep.
It's a nice engine. It's a nice bike, but it is arguably not capture the cruiser feel. So Spurge,
and I was wrong. I was wrong. It's when I was kind of knocking it for like you look at a picture of it and it kind of in the dimensions of it looks like the tires are more sporty, but they're not. It's like a 130/70/18 and a 180/65/16. So yeah,
right wheel set,
6-speed manual transmission. You got the DCT version, but that goes over the $10,000 price.
Okay. What's your pick here? I'm curious because I think we need to kick off a discussion here because there's a couple other things I wanted to touch on.
You can get a Harley Davidson for under $10,000. Like when you think it doesn't matter. I don't care. If you're looking at a Rebel 1100 for $9,600, or you could buy something from the motor company for $9,999. We're talking about, for those of you not familiar, the Harley Davidson Nightster. The most base package comes with a 975cc V-twin, liquid cooled V-twin.
Yep.
91 horsepower, 72 foot-pounds of torque. Got a little bit more like an upright kind of seating position. It's a good looking entry into the world of Harley Davidson for under $10,000. And let's be honest, if you're thinking about cruisers in North America, you're thinking about Harley Davidson. That has to be a consideration here.
It does. It simply must be a consideration. It simply must.
You don't agree though? The Harley Nightster wasn't on your list?
It's on my list because it is a sub $10,000 Harley, and if you're going to get a cruiser, you might just be like, I want a Harley Davidson or an Indian, which we'll talk about in a minute. That bike is not very Harley-ish. Here's a controversial take, Spurge. You're going to have a
Tell me.
field day
No,
with
I love
this.
it. I know where you're going.
I feel confident defending my position here. The Yamaha Bolt R spec.
I did not know you were going this way. I'm sorry. I lied.
You can get a Bolt R spec for $9,000.
Mm-hmm.
It is arguably a little bit more Harley Davidson than the Nightster. I think it's arguably more of a sort of classic Harley Davidson Sportster feel.
Can you explain that to the audience as to why?
It's air cooled, I think, right? Is the engine air cooled? I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. It's air cooled, single overhead cam, V twin, 942cc V twin. It shakes, it rumbles kind of like a Harley. It's a fake Harley. Let's just be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. It's a knockoff Harley Davidson, but it's a knockoff of a very classic Harley Davidson, which is the air cooled Sportster that came to an end a few years ago. That came in your 883 Iron, your 1200 Sportsters. That's the bike that sort of the Bolt R spec is aimed at, and it does a pretty good impression of it. And is it a fake Harley? Yes, it is a fake Harley, but it's a pretty good fake. I think it's like it is satisfying to use, and like the engine shakes and rumbles, and that Nightster engine doesn't shake and rumble. It's a peach of an engine, but it's a sport touring engine. Dead smooth on the highway. It's kind of peaky, makes peaky horsepower. It's like, It doesn't feel like a classic Harley Davidson cruiser engine. And so it's odd for me to say this, but I think that it is true that the motorcycle with the Harley Davidson badge on the tank isn't the closest to the Harley Davidson feel that you can get.
Does that matter for most customers?
I don't know.
I don't either. But I think it's important to know, if you're listening to this and you really don't understand what Zach and I are talking about, Harley Davidson introduced the Pan America, like 4 years ago now.
5 years ago? Yeah, something like that.
I was at the press launch. It was during the pandemic, or it was right before. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When Harley Davidson introduced the Pan America, the engine that was introduced was a step away from what was traditionally a Harley Davidson engine, right? It was liquid cooled, 150 horsepower, like little bit more aggressive than what people were thinking about.
Right. 1200cc engine, to be clear.
And even in the fact that they talked about it in cc's versus cubic inches, right? Like, it seemed to be a step away from what Harley was traditionally doing. Same thing here. This is a smaller displacement version of that engine, 975. They call it a 975.
I think it's a 975. I think that's right.
But it's a liquid cooled, sporty, aggressive engine, which is why it's being used in the Sportster line. So to Zach's point, the Bolt from Yamaha is definitely more of that traditional, what you think of when you think of a Harley V-twin. I like the Bolt. I feel like my review of the SCR 950, which is a Bolt that they called a scrambler.
We're not talking about that.
But my point is that, like, I liked that motorcycle because it was a good motorcycle. It just wasn't a scrambler, and it was a Bolt, right? So, like, I like the idea of what this bike can do.
The core, right?
Yeah, I like the core.
You didn't like
of
the
this
spin off, but the core of the bike is good.
100%. Can I throw another one out there that's
Please
similar? Like, one of the ones that I like, and it never gets talked about. It's almost like forgotten, but they're still making them, is Kawasaki's Vulcan 900. It is, if you look at the Vulcan 900 Classic, and there's a couple different trims, and I'm not going to say it, but you can pretty much get all the trims with rebates under $10,000. But I like the Classic because it's just what you think of, when you think of a 50s or 60s or 70s cruiser. It's just like, it's got the white wall tires,
twice pipes,
just big wide handlebars. The engine is like 903 cc's. It's also
a knockoff Harley. It's a
knockoff Harley. 100%. Yeah.
But again, not a bad one.
It's a great bike. When I was working at the Cowie dealership years ago, 13 years, they haven't changed it. So, like, I'm pretty sure that the Vulcan 900 that I rode 15 years ago is the same Vulcan 900 you can buy now. But it's just, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. It's just a great cruiser for what you're going to spend. Its MSRP is like $9,400.
Yep. $9,400. Yeah. And there are a couple of, kind of spin-offs. There's one with like a bigger, like contrast cut, bigger front wheel. Like, I think they call it the custom. And there's one that has a like riot shield, windshield, and some saddlebags, which I think is a little more than 10 grand.
Well, we were talking about this at the very beginning of the episode.
Okay.
It's one thing when you're talking about the 2024 models that are left over that you can get for rebates. This is the one that I was alluding to. It's a 2025 Vulcan 900 Classic LT. So saddlebag, sissy bar, windshield. $10,399 is the MSRP,
Yeah.
but it's got a $500 rebate on a 2025 model. So it is a $9,900 motorcycle.
Yeah. It's a lot of bike. It's a lot of bike. It's interesting, I think, that we're sitting here talking about metric options, even though there is a Harley. And let's circle back around.
Well, you mentioned Indian. So what do you got?
I did. So yeah, there's an Indian also. The Scout 60 Bobber is also $9,999. And that is, I think 1,000cc liquid cooled V twin, something like that. And is all bobbed and whatnot. And it's not the one that I would get, to be honest. I'd probably get the,
but it's the one you can afford with $10,000.
Correct. I like this. I like the Scout Classic or Scout 60 Classic, whichever one. I mean, a Scout Classic's $14,000. That's crazy.
My Cossacks cannot forget the first time that I rode an Indian Scout. Like I would much rather recommend the Harley Davidson that's not a Harley Davidson for $10,000 over. And there's people that love the Scout. I get it, but it's just I have a hard time with that one.
I don't know. I kind of like it. I think I'd probably have a Scout instead of the Nightster just because I kind of like I feel like it's sort of owning the modern cruiser thing a little bit better. Like I said, that the Harley Davidson engine is just terrific. It's a lovely strong word. It's a really great piece of engineering.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's really a particularly good cruiser engine.
Is the bobber air cooled? Or isn't the bobber?
No,
isn't the bobber
liquid cooled.
Yeah. So how is that any different than the Nightster engine?
Like I said, I just think it owns it a little bit better because the Nightster is like the Nightster just feels like it's trying too hard to be a classic Harley when it just isn't. Whereas the bobber is trying to be a modern Indian, which it is. I guess I didn't get that from Harley Davidson. I didn't get that from the Nightster. I guess in my mind, the Nightster is trying to be more of like a modern, sportier Harley Davidson with the Revolution engine and things. Like it doesn't strike me that they're trying to hold true to the heritage as much as like carry the heritage. Have you ridden a Nightster yet though?
I haven't. No.
Well, I don't know. I think you'd have the same take I do, which is that the engine's great. It just sort of like doesn't fit the bill quite as well. And I just think the Scout engine fits the bill a little bit better. But I want to pivot.
Well, I'm going to say the one that I'm surprised that you haven't brought up, and maybe you're about to.
Well, I was about to pivot. Don't forget.
Is it a Honda Shadow?
No, but great call. That's another good knockoff Harley.
Yep.
Shadow Phantom. And that bike's the same price. I repeat, the same price practically as it was when it came out in like 2008 or when they last updated it in 2008. It's crazy cheap.
It's like under $8,000, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
is it over $8,000 now?
It's around $8,000, I think. I'll look it up right now just to.
Well, why don't you pivot?
Sure
I have it right here. Yes. Well, so you have the Shadow Arrow, which is $7,900, and then the Phantom is a little bit more. The Phantom is $8,700.
And like the Arrow is like, you don't really get less bike. It just sort of
different, like bigger tires, like kind of a different look to it. I don't know. Yeah.
That's a lot of bike. That's a nice engine and a nice platform.
749 cc's.
745. Yeah.
745 cc's. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of bike. It's funny that I didn't really appreciate the value in metric cruisers quite until we started talking about this. And then I'm kind of like, I really am coming around. So the way I was going to pivot is we are talking about cruisers kind of from an aesthetic and cultural standpoint right now, right? We're talking about a Honda Shadow, the Kawasaki Vulcan, not the Vulcan S, but the Vulcan.
But that's how people talk about cruisers. They're not talking about performance, right? It's
right. And the Star Bolt, and these are bikes that are, like I said, call a spade, knockoff Harleys. They're supposed to be, they're Harley-esque, and it's very clear what these brands are trying to do. And like, I kind of like all those bikes are pretty good, like you said. There are, however, some other cruisers that are not really trying to be knockoff Harleys. They're cruisers of their own ilk, I think. You could call out the Kawasaki Vulcan S for one, but the one that I want to talk about.
I thought you were going to say Vulcan S, but you did, but it's not the one you want to talk about.
Kawasaki Eliminator. The Kawasaki Eliminator. I repeat.
Really?
It's the 451cc parallel twin that's in the Ninja 500 and Z500. And it's
I
not
don't like that you're using the Spurgeon Dunbar voice on the Kawasaki Eliminator. I just want to say that. I want to say that out loud.
If Spurgeon Dunbar were an affordable cruiser, he'd be the Eliminator. So
great name.
So the Eliminator is like I said, it's the sort of small sort of sport bike engine. And the reason that I like the Eliminator, the reason that I'm calling it out is that it is not really culturally, it's not really trying to be anything other than itself. You know, it's trying to be like a little muscle cruiser kind of thing, except it doesn't have a lot of muscle. But it's when you ride that bike, it's very different than riding other metric cruisers. The riding position is much more neutral. You're a little bit more upright. Your feet are more underneath you. It's sort of like Ducati Diavel in miniature. Mm-hmm. It's sportier. Like you can lean it over. You can go through corners. It's sort of like it's a power cruiser without the power. And I say that not as like a complete backhanded compliment. But like, I just think that bike is great. I was really impressed with it. It's like, it works really nicely and, it was a bit of a surprise for me because I think on paper it's kind of forgettable, but it worked really well. And it's $6,800 with ABS.
I know that. So here's another surprise for this episode. We're talking a lot about cruisers and I didn't see that coming, but I think we would be remiss to move on if we were not to mention Royal Enfield's cruisers.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
And I think this is where we have to wrap it up because we have another category to jump into that I'm actually really excited about. And then we have to do the wrap up. But whether you're talking about the Super Meteor 650 or the Meteor 650, I think one of the conversations that we had, the Meteor 650 was on a CTXP episode that Zach and Ari and I did with some of our colleagues.
Nope, that was the Meteor 350.
That's what I said. The Meteor 350.
No, of course you did. Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe I misspoke. The Meteor 350 was on a beginner bike CTXP episode.
Yes, it was.
And one of the conversations that I remember having around this was like, this is the beginner bike that Harley Davidson should have made because it's like you could smell the oil burning. You have to adjust the valves every 3,000 miles. You have to get in there and work on it. Not that you have to work on Harleys, but like I think the imagery of a Harley Davidson is I can work on it myself. You know, it's no frills. I can get in there. I can do this. And like when I think of the Meteor 350, like it's a great cruiser. It's a great little beginner cruiser. And if you want more displacement, you can bump up to the 650, which is a parallel twin. But it's something that like it's kind of a fake Harley that might be doing the small displacement Harley thing better than Harley.
Yeah. I'm looking. Oh yeah. So, and also the Super Meteor, the bigger one.
That's the 650. Yep.
The 650 is $7,000. And that's I haven't ridden that bike to be clear, but that's a nice engine and probably works pretty well. There's a couple different versions of that bike to some extent, right? There's the shotgun 650.
The quintessential cruiser sculpted for the open road.
Oh, wow, that does sound nice. That's probably a nice bike is what I have to say. And $7,000 is not a lot to pay for it. And is it trying to be something other than itself? Arguably it's got like, a little like Harley DNA kind of like injected into it in a way that wasn't necessary, but it is. So if you're on been around a long time though, been around a long time. They got a lot of pedigree.
Years. Yeah. I mean, like I think we associate Harley Davidson because it's a North American company, but like they've been making this bike for 60 years.
Well,
like 6 decades.
Not that bike, not the Super Meteor, to be fair. They've been making like the bullets and stuff like that have been around a long time. I think certainly there's a lot of pedigree and history that Royal
I am
Enfield
following their marketing Kool-Aid right down to the wire here.
Right.
6 decades of cruiser DNA distilled.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, we knew this was going to happen. We know stuff.
Yeah. So
anyway, that's a good call out though. Royal Enfield is a good call out because they have a raft of affordable bikes and some of them are definitely cruiserish and some of them are handsome and some of them have terrific engines. And I think that Meteor 650 is, I like that 650 engine a lot. I was really impressed with the INT 650, which is a good pivot.
Segue, if you will, into the final category of standard and retro / city bikes. So like these are your modern classics, which I know is probably more of a name associated with Triumph at this point, but that's a good place to start because I think, I am a quintessential Bonneville fan, and I would be remiss to say that if you like the idea of a cruiser category, but you don't like the idea of a 27-inch seat height, which is where I was when I started my motorcycling journey, I bought a Bonneville. And for under $10,000, you can buy a modern version of the bike that I bought, which is a Speed Twin 900 for $9,995. And in my humblest of opinions, when I think about the standard retro city category, it's just hard to beat everything about a Speed Twin 900. 900 cc's, 64 claimed horsepower, 59 foot-pounds of torque, sub 500 pounds, 31-inch seat height, upright seating position. Like I like it. I like it.
It's a good pick.
Tell me I'm wrong, Zach. Tell me I'm wrong.
I simply cannot. It's a good pick. That bike was on my list as well. It's a solid machine.
It's top on my list. So my question for you is,
can I beat it?
Do you think you can beat it? I'm not going to say you can. Do you think you can beat it?
Well,
you're going to say Kawasaki, aren't you? You're going to say Kawasaki, you son of a gun. Say
Kawasaki
it.
what?
You're going to say the RS.
What? Oh, the Z650 RS?
Or are you going to say the W?
No.
You're going to say
the
W?
W is over 10 grand.
W's really?
Yeah, W800. Is that what it is? W650? Whatever.
W800. It's 800. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like $11,000 I think for that bike, something like that.
10.4.
10.4. Okay, so just over, but that's over. That counts.
It counts.
I mean, my budgie pick here would be Royal Enfield INT 650. When I rode the INT 650, I thought this is just like a little Triumph Bonneville, not even in miniature, just sort of like alt. It's a smaller engine. But it's similarly calm. I think it's similarly handsome. And the engine's nice. I really like that bike. And I don't know, what is it? It's 6,800, just under $7,000, 6,850. So significantly cheaper. And I don't think you really, unless you need the Triumph name, you need I was going to say the Bonneville name, but you don't even get a Bonneville. Technically, you just get a Speed Twin 900. Yeah. I just think that INT 650 is a really great buy. Remember, I talked about this in the used bike thing too. Remember, I found one used for like $5,000 or $4,400, and I was like, "You guys, I
think it's interesting. The one that I'm most excited about, and I actually said this as much to our Royal Enfield rep, is the Bear 650, which is their new like scrambler looking kind of one. I think I'm trying to find pictures of it right now. It's a great looking bike. I want to go on record. I have not ridden one. I don't even know if it's out yet. I would love to see a daily rider on one. But 6,850, so under $7,000.
Same price, I guess, right?
And it looks cool. It looks cool. I like it. There's one with like a green frame and like checkered flag gas tank and little grab rail built into the frame. Like
it's hip to death, man.
It's hip to death.
It is.
I love that. Oh.
And yeah, I mean, this is a spin-off of the bike that of my pick. And I think any version of these bikes is kind of valid. I think they're surprisingly pleasing to use. I haven't ridden every single one of them, but I've ridden the platform and like I said, yeah.
Well, by a comparison here, so one of the ones that when I was at Triumph's website, I was writing down my notes on the Speed Twin, and I happened to scroll down past the Scrambler 400X, which you got to ride in India, past the Speed 400. Those are two great sub $6,000 offerings.
Yep.
But if you look at the Scrambler 900, which would be in the same range of performance as the bikes that we're talking about. I mean, obviously the Triumphs are a little bit more potent than the Royal Enfields. That one's 11.5. Like
Scrambler 900.
The Scrambler 900 is 11.5. So I couldn't pick that. So like if you want a Scrambler that feels a little bit more potent than a beginner bike, the Bear from Royal Enfield is really what you're looking at.
Yeah. A couple other things I'd like to call out. One, the Triumph Trident 660. Which I think is pretty good bike. It's not scramblery, but it's sort of a blend of modern and so like classic looks, but a modern 3-cylinder engine and $8,600.
And
pretty good bike.
So why wasn't that in your Sport Naked category? This is where we're going to split hairs a little bit, but I think it's important for our audience to note that Zach and I wrestled with this in pre-production. That's a Sport Naked.
It's not a sport bike.
That's a sport naked.
Nah, I don't like it.
This is why this category is so weird, because technically for the audience, if we're looking at like MIC rules of how this is broken down, naked sport bikes and Bonnevilles are all under the standard category. So like technically a speed triple is the same bike as a INT 650, right? Like it's categorized the same. And I think that's why we tried to put naked sport bikes in the sport category.
With sporting intent.
This is a sporting intent. This has sporting intent.
Does it now?
A Trident 660 is sporting intent.
False. What sport? Where's the sport? All I see is a round headlight and like
sport bike size wheels, 81 horsepower, a little bit more of an aggressive seating position. Like this is a naked sport bike. It's not the most lively naked sport bike out there, but this is a naked sport bike.
Okay.
Scrubbed.
No. Scrubbed.
That's very kind of you.
Honda SCL 500, also something I wanted to call out. And I wanted to call this out in reference to the Royal Enfields, because same price, I think, $6,800 basically for that SCL 500. And I think you arguably get more bike with the Royal Enfield, or you certainly get more kind of like kickstand presence and like.
What's the price on the Honda?
$6,800. And the SCL 500, so it's a 500 cc or is it 476 cc?
Does it feel like a potent 500 cc's, or does it feel like a lethargic?
No, it's not lethargic. It's calm. It's
calm. That's great. Composed. It's very diplomatic. Yeah.
Yes. And it's a great bike. I do like that bike, but I would, for the same price, I'd have trouble recommending that unless you really just want something that's a lot lighter weight and smaller feeling.
It could be a little more beginner friendly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hey, let me ask you a question. So kind of backing up to our disagreement a few minutes ago, and I think we handled it really diplomatically. It shows the evolution of our friendship.
Indeed.
But you mentioned the Trident 660. We didn't bring it up in the naked sport category. It could potentially fall under either. I'll give you that. XSR 700 from Yamaha
on my list. $8,600.
650 RS from Kawasaki. These are bikes that have arguably naked sport bike categories, right? MT-07, Ninja 650, or Z650. Those are under the sport naked categories. These are the XSR 700 and 650 RS are variants of those two machines that are arguably trying to go after more of the retro thing.
Yes.
But they have the exact same DNA as their naked sport bike categories.
Yes.
Where do you put them? Do you put them in this category?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Under standard city retro? Yeah, for sure. Because the XSR 700 is more upright. Like I think the handlebar is different than the MT-07 from Yamaha. It's like stylized version of the naked sport bike. And that's how I feel about the Triumph Trident too. I don't think that there's actually any sport bike in there anymore. I think it's just a standard bike. Like if someone said they were going to take it to a track day, I'd be like, fine, sure, go for it. But that would be the same reaction I would have to someone saying they're going to take a Yamaha XSR 700 to a track day. I'd be like, yeah, so fine. You can do that if you want to, but there's other stuff that's like, more designed to do that, I think.
I guess my point for the audience is that like, not all of this is going to be super cut and dry. And obviously like we kind of all know that, but I think it's important if you're listening to this, we're trying to do our best to align some of this stuff, but it's definitely a little bit tricky at times. So XSR 700 versus Ninja or Kawasaki 650 RS.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite of those two?
Yeah, I like the Yamaha engine better.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
And I think the Kawasaki's arguably a little better looking. But
I feel the other way.
Really?
I like the looks of the Yamaha better. Yeah. I'm just looking. I'm trying to find specs on the new version. 689.
The new version of what?
The Yamaha. 689cc, 410 pound wet weight.
It's a properly compact bike. It's nice.
And it's a great engine. Like you hit it. Like if you're looking at the two, not that the Kawasaki engine isn't good, but like there's just something about that MT-07 engine that's just like, so
very
good.
Very, very good. Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think this is pretty good here, dude. We're in good standing, I think, with our list. We've made good progress, I feel. What
Someone
is there-
someone sent. I'm sorry. I just want to. Someone sent me a message on Instagram the other day, and I wish I was trying to find the message quickly. But they had reached out and they said, "Hey, I'm looking at these two motorcycles, and one was like a Ducati Scrambler, and the other one was, I think, an MT-07 or an XS700." And they said, "I want to do XYZ with this. Which one would you pick?" And I was like, "The Yamaha, hands down." Like, and there were two like used versions, and the Yamaha was a little bit more affordable. And he then sent me a picture. He went out and bought the Yamaha, and he was like, "Dude," he's like, "I can't even believe I was questioning it. Like, this bike is awesome." And I was like, "Yeah, it's a great engine." So,
word. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've thrown out a lot of nomenclature, lingo, jargon. And I guess maybe we circle back now, right? Circle back and talk about.
We have to agree in each category.
Oh, we have to agree.
Yes, we have to come together. We're going to do what the American government cannot do. We are going to come together and we're going to agree on one bike for each category.
Okay.
And then the audience can let us know if we're right or wrong. So adventure, do we want to just keep this snappy and say that the Honda Transalp is, if you're spending less than $10,000 in the adventure category, just go pick up a Honda Transalp.
Yeah. Agreed.
Love it.
Done.
Well, that was easy.
The next one's going to be trickier. Sport/naked. We had some disagreements here.
I know.
You seem to agree that the Kawasaki Z900 is a lot of motorcycle.
I do. But like, I think my problem with that is that like, I've taken one on a racetrack and like you're dragging the pegs a little bit early. Yeah. Like it just doesn't feel as like, I know that you don't like the GSX-8R, but like for me, it feels like it's something that is a sport bike that you can also, I don't know. It just feels.
I think you're going to drag pegs on that bike too.
You think so? I haven't taken one on the track yet. I want to take one on the track yet. Yeah.
I haven't ridden a Z900 on the track either, as you have. So, I mean, there's so many good picks here. We could just say Ninja 500 and solve the problem, and just say like, move on. That's the best sport bike.
I would be really okay with that compromise. So for if you want something potent, like if you're listening to this and you're maybe you're on a Ninja 400 or Ninja 500 and you're looking at stepping up, Kawasaki's Z900 is a great bike. Great naked sport bike.
And that's the most bike you're going to get for 10 grand or under. It's like more power, more poise. That's the most bike you're going to get. But
you know what? I like when you brought up the F900R, and that was like the dark horse. I did not see that coming from BMW.
Yeah.
And if you were asking me which of the bikes that we talked about today, I would actually go out and spend money on, I would own an F900R. I would own that bike.
Yeah. It's a good bike. Here, let's try to whittle this down.
Okay.
This is the sport naked category. This is about performance.
Yes.
If you're given a pick of these bikes we've talked about,
mm-hmm.
and a racetrack,
yes.
Say, I don't know, doesn't matter what racetrack it is, pick your favorite racetrack, and you're trying to go around the racetrack as fast as possible, which bike are you picking?
It's between the Kawasaki and the BMW.
Okay. Yeah. My heart of hearts says Ninja 500 is it's the best sport bike under $10,000, not because it's the fastest, not because it's the most potent, not because it's this or that.
Like I love that bike. It's a great bike. I haven't ridden the 500. I've ridden the 400, but I can't imagine it's going to blow my.
No, the 500 is a great street bike.
And just so we're clear, we've not talked about we're not including the ZX4RR. It's a little bit too much of a one-off. It's not going to.
I just don't know if I'd recommend that bike.
Yeah,
over a Ninja 500. Like Ninja 500.
Price. We like listen. If you want something, you've already heard us talk about.
You've heard us talk about
options.
It. Yes,
but spend under $6. Get yourself a Ninja 500. Take it to a sport, or take it to a track day. Take it to your local coffee shop. Have a good time.
And laugh your way all the way to the Laugh Factory.
All right.
Dual Sport
Dirt.
Do we agree on anything here? I don't
know. This is a bloodbath of a category for us. I just think, man, how many Kawasaki's are we going to pick today?
I know. Do you want to go Kawasaki? You want to go KLX 300 from Kawasaki? That's what you want to
do. I kind of do. Unless you're going to give me the pass on the 450 RL at 10-1.
No.
10-1? 10-1?
No. Sorry. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Would you rather do the 650L from Honda, which is so long in the tooth you can't close your mouth? Like,
I think your pick is good.
Kawasaki KLX 300, not the R, the street legal version for $54.50. $54.50.
Okay, that's pretty good. Cruiser Touring, Spurge. We picked a lot of bikes that we thought were pretty good, but we didn't actually pick one that.
I just like the idea of like, if you're thinking,
you're going to say Nightster.
I just think that if you're thinking about a cruiser, if you think about the cruiser category, okay, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Pretend that we haven't talked about this at all. If I were to say cruiser to you, what's the first brand that you think of?
Yeah, Harley Davidson.
That's my argument. I don't have anything. I don't need to go into the specs. I agree with everything you're talking about. It's the least Harley Davidson Harley that Harley makes. There are other Japanese manufacturers making more Harley Davidson Harleys, but it doesn't have the badge on the tank. I'm happy to pick something. Listen, you were very kind in the dual sport category because you know that I.
Let's just pick another Kawasaki, shouldn't we? Let's just.
Well, I mean, Kawasaki could sweep this if we really weren't careful. Outside of their adventure category, Kawasaki has. I mean, I guess we could go back to the KLR 650. Kawasaki really doesn't have a proper adventure bike.
Yeah, true. Gosh. Okay. All right. We can go. We can go.
No, do you want to do Rebel? We could do a Honda Rebel. Now we've only. No,
you're right. You're right about the Rebel. Nobody Vulcan,
wants to be seen.
Phantom, Bolt. Okay, fine. We'll go Nightster. It's a Harley. You can get a Harley Davidson
for under $10,000.
Made near America. Harley Davidson Nightster for
all right,
$9,999, and that is a big price slash. That's a couple $1,000 off. So that's worth calling out. Okay, standard / city retro.
You can go first. What do you think? Out of all the ones we talked about, Trident. You want to say the Trident, don't you? You sick son of a bitch.
No, not going Trident. I'm going Royal Enfield INT 650. That bike was kind of off my radar until you brought up Royal Enfield, and that's a great bike. And you can get a Speed Twin 900 for less than $10,000. But what you wanted was the Bonneville T100, and you can't afford that because it's too expensive. So get the Royal Enfield INT 650. It's handsome as all get out. You're not really going to miss out on any performance or any other things. You're not going to have the Triumph badge on the tank, but great bike.
Yeah, I think so. I would say from an audience perspective, this is the one category where we're going to give you two options because I'm just going to. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Okay, well, in that case, a Honda XR 650L for Dual Sport and a Bolt R spec for.
I think from a performance standpoint, and like, the Triumph is such a good bike. Like, it just blows the doors off the performance of the Royal.
Does it? How so?
I think it's going to be more power. I think it's better brakes. I think it's a tighter suspension. Like, I just think.
Spurgeon.
Yeah.
I don't think you spent enough time on a Royal Enfield INT 650.
I spent a lot of time on Royal Enfields. I have not spent a lot of time on a INT 650. I'll give you that. But
okay, I'm taking this one. Royal Enfield INT 650 is our pick for Spurgeon's Bonneville because it's a darn good Bonneville knockoff. By gosh,
yeah. If you try to knock off my Bonneville is now in its. So I'm actually celebrating the 20th year of owning a 2005 Bonneville T100, and the Royal Enfield INT 650 is a great knockoff of my 20-year-old Bonneville. So if that's what you're looking for in this category, Zach is correct. If you want something that is a modern
something that's more modern
of what
and has a round headlight,
yeah,
then get a Trident 660. I agree.
Get a Speed Twin 900. No. All right. So let's move on.
Okay. That was a lot of fun, everyone. If you're still awake, we are going to dive into our engine sound guessing game, everyone. This is where we play a clip of an engine on a motorcycle, starting up, revving a few times, and shutting off. And Spurge and I are going to try to guess, without the help of an expert guest, I might add, what the motorcycle is.
And
Spurge?
who in season 10 is our sponsor of the Engine Sound Guessing Game, Zach?
It is none other than Akrapovich.
Akrapovich.
Like I said, the famous
This is the
Martian
problem. People get the pronunciation wrong. We have to agree on this.
Akrapovich.
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 The point is, if you're looking for a premium exhaust for your
Nice.
motorcycle to make it sound stellar this riding season, check out the full line of Akrapovich exhausts over on RevZilla.com. Thank you to Akrapovich for helping us bring the sultry engine sounds to your ear holes in this podcast. And for those of you that have not played along in the past, we're going to play an engine sound. You're going to get a couple hints. You're playing along at home, dear listener. Zach, are you ready to fire up your engine?
Gentlemen, start your engine. Wow. Burjo?
The starting sound, like the firing that thing up, it sounded bad. It sounded like there was something that was going to go kaput. But once it
So you're saying
got
it's
running,
Italian?
man, that sounded good. Like once it got going, it sounded really good.
We might have missed. Well, let's be clear here. We almost certainly missed something along the way somewhere. With certain bikes and certain categories and whatever. But I'm going to say, Spurge, that we missed during our conversation about Retro City or cruisers. We did not talk about the Moto Guzzi V7 Stone, which is $9,200 approximately.
How much is the Ducati Scrambler?
$11,000. I looked it up.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
you
can get a 90-degree Italian V twin. That's not a Ducati, but a Moto Guzzi for $9,200. And I have not historically liked that motorcycle at all, but it is authentic.
It's a lot of pasta for that motorcycle. I feel like
yeah. I don't think it's a screaming deal, but
it's a screaming deal. I don't think it's gonna upset either of our picks of Triumph.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. But there are a couple of options in the Moto Guzzi.
We're playing
V7.
the engine sound guessing game. Why are you talking about a Moto Guzzi? Is it because you think that's what this bike is? You think this is a Moto Guzzi?
You asked.
Tell us.
I think it might be. I think it might be a Moto Guzzi. Spurge, let's get our first hint. What do you got? Sorry. Back up. What do you think it is?
I mean, we always try and start with like cylinders first.
Yes, I think it has 2 cylinders.
I would agree with you.
Okay.
So you think it's a Moto Guzzi?
I don't really know what I'm talking about.
But so you think it's a V-twin? You think it's a V-twin, not a parallel twin?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
I liked your idea of like it's Italian because of the way that it sounded starting up. It sounded like there were a lot of mechanical screws rolling around in the case.
Well, yeah.
I'm like parallel twin V-twin.
You're going parallel twin?
No, I mean it's a twin. I agree with you. I'm hearing a twin. All right. First hint. You want to do a first hint? Liquid or air cooled?
Ooh, I'm going air cooled.
Air cooled. Okay.
I'm hearing a lot of valve train.
Hint number 1. Air cooled V twin. What type of engine does a Moto Guzzi V7 have?
That is an air cooled 90-degree V twin, Spurgeon Dunbar. Could be because it sounds
It sounds bigger though, doesn't it? Could it be the V9?
So it could be,
is the V9 bigger?
V9 or a V85 TT. Ooh. Be a Moto Guzzi V85 TT, the adventurous Moto Guzzi model.
Didn't we have that? Wasn't that one of the engine sounds that we've already had this season?
Was it already had this season,
or was it last season? I thought
this season.
This is how much Zach and we're only 3 episodes into season 10, and we're like, I couldn't tell you what we picked so far.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's listen again for the audience at home. Not because Zach and I need to listen again, but for the audience.
Not, no.
Yeah. That's a big engine. Like, I mean, like it's not
MGX 21, that big old Moto Guzzi cruiser. I think it's a Guzzi.
You don't think it's
You
don't think it's like an older air cooled?
I'm listening to that fuel pump when it first starts up.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
It's got a pretty modern sound, and then
the displacement it sounds like a big. So if it's an air cooled V twin, and we're sure, like we're not thinking Harley Davidson, we're not going to get screwed on this because
no. I would bet something that's not very expensive that it's not a Harley.
Final hint number 2.
Hit me.
This engine sounds model year is the last to feature a Roman numeral 2.
It is a Guzzi.
The following year was denoted as a Roman numeral 3.
So I think it's a Moto Guzzi V50. I think. Because there was a V50 and there was a V50 Roman numeral 2. And I'm not sure if there was a Roman numeral 3.
What's the V50?
Didn't the Moto Guzzi model? Moto Guzzi V50.
But didn't the V7
was there a V7 too?
Yeah, I think so. And then there was like also like what didn't the V9 have it too as well?
Oh, might have.
I don't know if we're allowed to look. Are we allowed to like, pull up?
No, I don't think we're allowed to look. No, we're not allowed to look. I was about to start looking on stuff. I'm not looking anything up.
Okay.
I still like my guess of Moto Guzzi V7. That.
It just sounds bigger to me. I don't know.
That's my guess. I got nothing.
Maybe they just.
I'm going with my
maybe
first.
Somebody enhanced the audio. maybe they're messing around.
It was our friends over at Akrapovich. I can never figure out which syllable to emphasize.
Akrapovich.
Okay.
I don't have a better guess. I think it's V9 or I don't think the 85 has a Roman numeral 2. Either way, let's go down to the answer.
Answer, please.
That engine sounds good. Oh, Zach Hortz, 2016 Moto Guzzi V7-2 Stone.
All right.
Sent in by Wesley.
Well, thank you, Wesley.
Wesley sent in a audio sound for us of his personal 2016 Moto Guzzi V7-2 Stone, the base model in the V7 line. New models started in 2025. Fun fact, 9190 under $10,000, as Zach noted. Wesley, if you would like a t-shirt, please feel free to shoot us an email over to highside, lowside at RevZilla.com. Let us know your preferred shirt size. And as we've mentioned, we have some new shirt sizes. So some new shirt styles. So if you have a specific style you want, let us know and we will get that mailed out to you.
Thank you so much, Wesley. That was fun. I always like being right, as we all know. Speaking of t-shirts,
you nailed that one. I'll give you credit. Like I did not think that was a V7. So kudos to you, Mr. Quartz. I like to admit when I have been bested and you have bested me.
Well, it was also very appropriate because we didn't talk about Moto Guzzi at all as far as motorcycles that you can buy for less than $10,000, which was, a little bit of a miss maybe. So there you go. But we did,
you really can't get you can't get a Ducati Scrambler for under $10,000 anymore?
I don't think so. I looked it up last night. I didn't have that many drinks. I think that it's fair to call out at some point during this podcast that we did not mean it to be a literal comprehensive list of every single motorcycle available for less than $10,000. We definitely didn't cover some things, some sport bikes, some ADV bikes, whatever. We were talking about our picks. So
our picks. You want to pick your bikes? Go start your own podcast. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the official t-shirt winner. Just a reminder, we would love it if you please head over to your Apple podcasting app, leave us a favorable, loving review. It helps us with circulation of the show. The other area that we are trying to make sure we're paying attention to is Spotify comments. In season 10, we've acknowledged that there's a lot of you out there listening on Spotify, and we are looking at all of your comments. Somebody actually wrote an email in saying, because I've been responding to people on Spotify, and someone said, someone's pretending to be Spurgeon Dunbar and responding to my comment. And if it's actually Spurgeon Dunbar, here's the answer to his question. It was a gentleman who took this crazy canoe trip down the Mississippi River. And I was like, I want to hear about that. Like, it was an amazing story of this dude and his buddy, and they went canoeing down the Mississippi River. And he wrote in and he's like, somebody saying that they're Spurgeon Dunbar is responding to my Spotify comments. So we're looking at you, Spotify. Zach, who's the winner for today?
Winner today is Daniel Smith 5428, who writes in, I ride a Tracer 9 GT from Yamaha as my daily vehicle here in Denver, Colorado. I was at the local RevZilla store, good call out, when I saw the replica Dumb and Dumber bike and started asking questions. This ultimately led me to watching every episode of Daily Riders, CTXP, and finally Highside, Lowside. Thank you, Zach and Spurgeon, for putting on this amazing show. I listen to my commute every day, and I have turned several in my group onto the show. We discussed the episodes on our group rides. Well, that is a heartwarming letter to us. If I've ever heard one, Daniel Smith 5428. Thank you so very much. I will notice that you said Daily Rider, CTXP, and Highside, Lowside. I hope you're watching the shop manual too. Our good friend Ari, he puts a lot of effort into creating good, valuable, quality content on the shop manual. So if you missed that one somehow on the RevZilla YouTube channel, please do check it out. In general, we're so glad you found the content. We're very glad that you found the Dumb and Dumber bike. That is the very machine that Ari and I rode from Nebraska to Aspen, Colorado in our CTXP episode. So you saw a little slice of a knockoff of history.
For those of you that are potentially new to not just the Highside Lowside podcast, but RevZilla content in general, Daily Rider is Zach's show where he rides new motorcycles on the same commute, and he talks about what this bike would be like to own if you were to have one on your daily commute. He mentioned the shop manual, which is for those of you that are just starting out in motorcycling, or maybe you want to learn how to work on your own bike. Check out Ari Henning's shop manual. CTXP are big adventures. Zach mentioned they built the replica scooter from Dumb and Dumber, and they reworked and kind of myth busted the road trip. You can see that bike in person. If you're in Denver, stop by the RevZilla store and check it out in person. And then obviously, you guys know what Highside Lowside is. You spend 2 hours listening to Zach and I argue over dual sports and Bonnevilles, and you try just to hang on long enough to see if you want a free t-shirt. And Daniel Smith 5428, you succeeded. So send your address, preferred t-shirt size and style over to Highside Lowside at RevZilla.com, and we will make sure you are taken care of.
Oh, there you go. All right. On to the Highside Lowside comment. Spurjo.
Patrick wrote us an email. Indeed. And this one plucked at my heartstrings. I like adventure bike riders, as you might know. It says, my name is Patrick. I have a Triumph Tiger 850 Sport. I currently have the stock 80/20 tires, which are Michelin Anarchy adventure tires on my Tiger. And I ride mostly on the pavement, but I would like to expand my riding to more off-road types of riding. I've noticed that I'm fine when I get on a gravel road, but then I start to lose grip when I'm doing anything more intense than that. This spring, I'll be moving to Athens, Ohio for school. And I know that there are a ton of off-road trails and gravel roads. However, there's still a lot of really good paved roads. So what tires should I be looking at? 50/50, 40/60. I'm also interested in riding the PA Wilds BDR X someday, which is also part of his consideration. So,
okie dokie. Well, this guy has an adventure bike. He has a question about tires.
He does.
Spurgeon Dunbar is the person to answer this question. Correction. Spurgeon Dunbar can answer your question.
Patrick.
Okay, you don't have to.
I don't think you want to go scourge around in the Pine Barrens, but you do want to handle a gravel road while riding in Ohio.
No one can tell what you're saying because they're laughing too hard. So just give the man some advice. You're a good person to ask this question. Jokes aside,
Patrick,
your
Pennsylvania woods.
I
have three options for you.
Tires.
I have three options for you. We're riding in the same neighborhood. If you want to go 50/50 or like maybe slightly more aggressive than that, like Bridgestone calls them 40/60, leaning more off-road. I call them a 50/50 tire. The Bridgestone Battle Axe, and all three of these picks, I double checked for you. All three of these picks come in your needed size for your Triumph Tiger 850 Sport. Bridgestone Battle Axe AX41s, the Adventure Cross tires. This is a great 50/50 tire. I like these better than the Continental TKC 80s. I think that they wear a little bit longer. I think that when they start to wear down on the tread, they still grip a little bit better at the end of their life. These are going to get you maybe maybe 4,000 miles out of a rear. These are definitely going to be if you want to go do some of that more off-road intensive stuff. But I think they handle really well on the street considering.
Interesting.
Now, if that's too aggressive for you, maybe you want to maybe that's not as far as you want to go right away. Step down. The Mitas Enduro Trail Plus. This is a 60/40 street tire. So leaning a little bit more towards the street side of things. Probably, if I remember correctly, to the older EO7s, which are similar to this, you get maybe like 6,000 or 7,000 miles out of a rear. And it's going to be a little bit more street focused than what you're going to see with the Bridgestone. Last pick is the Continental TKC 70. Okay. This is more of like that 80/20 tire that you are familiar with the Anarchy Adventure tires. But perhaps slightly a little bit more aggressive off-road. But those are the three that I'd recommend you consider. And depending on the kind of flavor of riding you want to do, my personal favorite and the ones that are on my bike right now are the Bridgestone AX41s, because I think that they are a great 50-50 split.
So you gave Patrick some good options here for a 50-50 split, a sort of 60-40 and an 80-20. Mm-hmm. But one of the questions he asked you was, what kind of tires should I be looking for if I want to do this type of riding that he described? Like maybe some trails here and there, but still some pavement. Like what would you tell him to do? Because I think I have an opinion, but I want to know what yours is.
I think because Patrick is just starting out in his off-road adventure, a little bit of extra grip will help him perhaps feel a little bit comfortable. I know you could take the opposite side of that where like if you're getting on more aggressive off-road tires, it feels a little squirrelier on the street and it might cause you to feel like something's wrong with the bike. But I think that some of that extra grip at times when you're off-road for the first time helps is my only point there.
Well,
what's your take?
My take would be the opposite. Well, not the opposite, but I think just like a slightly different take, which would be if you're not sure about riding off-road on your Triumph Tiger 850 Sport, or you want to dabble, I would dabble with your product choice as well. I would do the Mitas or the TKC 70 and not go full AX41. I think AX41 is a great tire. I agree with you, but I think it's too aggressive for our man Patrick here. Patrick, unless you're really going hard at it, I think I would I'd go with a tire that's going to feel a little more comfortable and competent on the street. And if you're riding off-road and you really feel like, oh my God, I'm slipping all over the place and I can't do it, then you need something more aggressive. But I would start there and work your way into it rather than compromise grip too much on the street.
I don't hate that. So Patrick, if we're in the same vein that we've tackled this episode, we're going to try and come to a consensus at the end. I would recommend perhaps starting with the Mitas Enduro Trail Plus and then adjust from there. The only final note that I'll throw out there, the Tiger 850 Sport that you're on has mag wheels, so you don't want to air down too much, but just keep in mind, you should be okay with, airing down a little bit when you get to your trailhead. Like a 28 to 30 PSI in the front and like a 28 to 30 PSI in the rear is good. So if you're going 28 in the front, go 30 in the rear. If you're going 30 in the front, maybe 32 in the rear, somewhere around there.
Spurgeon. I think, just to back up real quick.
Oh, Patrick, we're going to send you a t-shirt too.
We're going to send you a t-shirt. Yeah. Do you want a t-shirt, Patrick? Send us an email. Thank you for allowing us to talk about your tires and your motorcycle. Please do send us an email at Highside, Lowside at RevZilla.com, and we'll send you a t-shirt too. We appreciate your interest. Spurgeon, as we pivot into the outro of the show, where we tell people to leave a comment on YouTube if we want to. We tell people leave a comment on Spotify. We tell people to leave an Apple Podcast review if they would like to. We tell people to send a clip of their motorcycle starting up if they would like it featured on the Engine Sound Guessing Game. I have a quick bit of trivia for you. Ready?
Wait, no, I'm not. What else are we asking people to send? Examples of whether or not they're the a-hole, perhaps?
Ah, right. Well, I guess I'm a bit of an a-hole myself for forgetting to talk about that.
That's
good call out. Great call out.
If you've listened to episode 1, we are potentially calling out your a-holeness.
Right. Are you concerned that something you're doing on your motorcycle is uncouth? Well, let us be the judges, shall you? So send us that question if you like to Highside, Lowside at RevZilla.com.
Now move forward with what you were pontificating on.
Patrick has a Triumph Tiger 850 Sport. during our episode today, we talked about, among other things, the CF Moto Ibex 450, the Honda Transalp, the Suzuki SV650, the Suzuki GSX 8S, the Ninja 500, the Kawasaki ZX4RR, the Kawasaki KLR 650, the Harley Davidson Nightster, the Royal Enfield INT 650, the Honda SEL 500. What do all of those bikes have in common?
Spoke wheels?
They've been featured on Daily Rider, everyone. So if you want more information on those machines, I have covered them on Daily Rider. That exists on the RevZilla YouTube channel. And you can get a sort of full, in-depth, unfiltered review of those machines and dozens more.
Yes, unfiltered, unless you want to know exactly how you feel about the Suzuki GSX 8R, because that bike's not on Daily Rider. I wanted to know, and I am left wanting, my friend. So that's my challenge to you.
Get an 8R and ride
Get an 8R and let me know how different it is than the 8S. I'm your desired consumer and audience there for that one.
It's not different.
So that's your big takeaway, huh? Your big takeaway at the end of this episode is
a plug for my show.
People should be
that's
spending,
right.
When you're done listening to this 2-hour episode of Zach's voice in your ears arguing with me, you should then go dive into some of his Daily Rider content. It's not a bad point. If there's anything that we have talked about today that you want more
I wish you talked about more.
No, it's a good call out. If there's anything that we're talking about today that maybe you're not familiar with, maybe you're not up on, one, Daily Rider is a great source of motorcycle information. Zach does a great job of throwing stuff out there that is, a little pleasant mix of like facts and figures, as well as like some opinions and some real world riding.
And you barely have to look at my face, I promise.
It's really a lot of just staring in front of him. You don't have to look at him at all. It's great. Actually, that's not true. You have to look at him a little bit, but you can stomach it. The other thing is head over to Common Tread. We have first ride reviews on like 80% of the bikes that we talked about today. So if you're not familiar, Common Tread over on RevZilla.com is our online magazine. And there's articles up every single day covering so much of what we talk about here, or it's at least a starting point for us to pontificate further.
Indeed. So, Spurjo, I think that's enough plugs for our other work and our colleagues' work, and enough talking about Kawasaki XYZ 3500 and throwing all sorts of numbers and digits at people. Friendly reminder that if you listened to this podcast, you can watch this podcast on YouTube or on Spotify. And when you do that, you will see some imagery and some video to back up what we are talking about, and will help give you some context.
If you're not sure of any of the bikes that we're talking about, our editor, Matt, did a tremendous job with this episode, putting up images.
We're talking right now. We don't know what work he's done on it, but we just trust that he's done an excellent job.
He's done it.
He's done an excellent job. He always does. That's how we know.
Any other final thoughts before we sign off and say goodbye to the audience?
No, gosh, if you're still with us, thank you so much. This has been a treat talking about motorcycles with my buddy Spurge. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you took something away from it. We know Patrick, I hope you made it to the end, because we answered your question, for crying out loud.
Go buy some tires and send us some photos of you ripping your Tiger off-road.
That's right.
That's all we ask. We're going to send you a free t-shirt. We're giving you tire recommendations. Send us a photo. Let us know that you're out there having a good time on your bike. All right, everybody.
Don't forget to write.
Thank you for joining us for another episode. We will see you on episode 4.